Okay,
What do we do?
we are recording. So welcome to anyone who's joining us remotely. Let's go ahead and get ourselves in focus here. Actually, what we gotta do, hold on, we gotta make sure we're in focus there. And have we lost the camera? Oh, we got the camera there. Okay, now go ahead and get in focus. Okay, everybody in focus? Manuel, do you want to start us off? So, tinea or TV, what do you think about the corneum for tinea versicolor? That should be a loose corneum. This one's fairly compact. And then, so you're definitely on the right track, but what kind of tinea?
Tinea nigra.
Yeah, tinea nigra. So you have the pigmented hyphae in a compact corneum, typically volar skin. And the hyphae themselves are brown to golden, so T nigra, very good.
Yeah.
So, Miyake's granuloma is certainly a possibility. We have suppurative granulomatous, palisaded granuloma with caseation in the center. So you always want to look in the area of caseous necrosis, and you want to look in any giant cells first, because that'll be your highest yield for organisms. So always pop to the caseous area and the area of giant cells. And in the area of giant cells, we start to pick up some things. So what do we have? So brown pigmented hyphae look like sausage links. So the slide is labeled chromomycosis. That's half right. They get half credit for that. This is phaeohyphomycosis. So it's growing in hyphal form. And the reason they screwed up and said chromo is that they're seeing the chlamydospores, which are these large swellings of the phaeohyphomycosis spore formation that pheo likes to do. So one of the hints is it varies in size and shape, and you also have hyphal forms. So if you have hyphae, which we can see here, as well as the chlamydospores, then it is pheo, not, look at the whole field there, not chromomycosis. So to put that aside, we've got to relabel it as phaeohyphomycosis.
So it looks like there's some acanthosis, something going on in the cornified layer.
Yeah, what's going on in the cornified layer?
Looks like there's newts in the horn.
Newts in the horn. Give me a differential for newts in the horn.
So P-Tex, psoriasis, tinea, and impetigo, candida, subderm, syphilis.
And you sort of have to go through all of those. So for syphilis, I really don't see any interface. It's a fairly regular psoriasiform spongiotic acanthosis. We happen to be in the fungal week here.
Yeah.
So we're going to look and see if we see organisms. How would you expect Candida to appear?
Like vertical pseudohyphae.
Yeah, so pseudohyphae, vertically oriented, tinea swims, candida dives. So tinea is horizontally oriented and candida vertical, and in fact over here you start to pick them up.
Oh, yeah.
Right, the vertically oriented hyphae right there.
Good.
Alright, this is kind of deep. We've got a lot of information. Is this like rhinosporidium? Is this rhinosporidium or no?
Rhinospordiosis, they would be about the size, they would look very much like the globi and leprosy.
Okay, so smaller.
Or, I'm sorry, that's rhinoscleroma. Sorry about that. Rhinosporidium would be large sporangia, but you would see definite circles in
Okay.
the sporangia.
Okay, so I'm thinking like
There.
grains.
Yeah, exactly, a grain. And then do you see hyphal structures, or is it amphiphilic?
I think it's amphiphilic, like filamentous bacteria.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the more common, which is actinomycetoma. Things like actinomedura and other filamentous rods.
Yeah.
Okay, we are not in skin, we are in lung, but the organism will look the same. So if you have a granulomatous area, you look in the granuloma, find the organism. So this is probably a very good area right in here. That front and center, and then get our diopter ring to bring it in focus, and flip our condenser to make them more refractile. And what do you see?
Oh, yeah. Crypto.
Yeah. So you have pleomorphic yeast. So they're round to oval, and they vary in size and shape, and each one sits in a capsule. So they are in common capsules. Most organisms, most fungal organisms, like single-family houses, and crypto likes condominium living, right? So they're grouped together in a common capsule, and they're pleomorphic, round to oval yeast sitting in a capsule. So very good for cryptococcosis. And then good stain for crypto is Fontana, because all fungi produce melanin to some degree.
No, it's fine. So it's like we have a lot of information, probably neutrophils.
Yeah, lots of neutrophilic inflammation.
Looks like grains again.
Grains, and this grain, is it made up of filamentous rods or of cocci?
Yeah, it looks like more bacterial, so cocci.
Yep. So diagnosis.
Probably, I know botrytis can look like
Yes,
this.
exactly. Botryomycosis. So one of the clues is grains, fungal and actinomycotic grains are round to oval. Botrytis grains are always irregular in shape. The cocci form little appendages that stick out. So irregular grain made of cocci would be Botryomycosis staphylococcus.
So it looks like we're really deep.
Deep, and tell me about the blood vessels. happy or unhappy?
Unhappy.
Inflammation,
Not present. Or
amphiphilic haze.
yeah, so Pseudomonas ecthymic gangrenosum.
Yeah, so ecthymic gangrenosum. And then along with the ecthymic gangrenosum, you got something else that's kind of thick-walled here.
Yeah.
So this is synergistic infection. Given that it's a thick-walled septate organism.
Mucor? No, it's
Well,
olives.
that wouldn't be septate. You
Yeah.
wouldn't see cytoplasm. So this was pheo and ecthymic gangrenosum synergistic infection. And you see both organisms there in the tissue. You see the phaeohyphomycosis and you see the ecthymic gangrenosum. In many areas you see the ecthyma, but you're also making out these circles that are where the fungal organism is. And you got to treat both. So the acute cause of death is going to be the Pseudomonas sepsis, and you can even make out in here. You can make out the Pseudomonas forming. You know that it's rods becoming filamentous in areas, and then the fungus also has to be treated. So Zosyn or an aminoglycoside for the Pseudomonas, and then for the phaeohyphomycosis, itraconazole in high doses. So we have
The inflammatory process, mixed inflammation, constantly.
Yeah, so we have mixed inflammation, it's granulomatous and suppurative. So you look in giant cells, look in suppurative foci to try to find the organism. And in this case, not jumping out at me. So let's start with which fungal organisms will be hard to find. So sporotrichosis, except in Japanese and South African cases, and blasto are the two that are hard to find. And then right here. We've got a fungal spore there. It's a little lacy. You could almost think of that one as crypto, except that here it's clearly budding, right? Which crypto would not do, and it's a nice broad base bud. So it's probably broad base budding, probably blastomycosis, even without that asymmetrical thick wall being visible. It's about the right size for blasto. It's got broad base budding. You would, in a perfect world, like to see the asymmetrical thick wall, but we don't see it in that case. Okay, so we got lots of giant cells filled with an organism. And the organism sits in a little capsule.
So it could be Cryptococcus.
So absolutely could be Cryptococcus, except that that's a pretty thick wall for crypto, right? Crypto is round to oval, very thin wall.
Could it be
So-
African histo?
And that's exactly what it is. So it's actually a pseudocapsule, and it's African histoplasmosis. Looks a lot like lobo, about the same size. Can even form short chains like lobomycosis. Much bigger than regular histo. Rich, what do you think?
Pretty big. Is that whole like clear space the organism, or just the?
So there's a big clear space,
wondering about
and then
Coquillo.
within the clear space are little round to oval organisms.
I was thinking about the one Coquillo like the one that's in like Arizona.
Oh, like Coxie,
Yeah.
except that here they're sitting within a single big clear space, and within that single big clear space there are round to oval small organisms. So what like to cluster within a single big clear space and have round to oval red pleomorphic yeast?
A big fish though.
So crypto, yeah. So cryptococcosis, big clear space, the condominium, the gelatinous capsule condominium that they're all living in, and then red, thin-walled, round to oval organisms clustered within that bigger white space is cryptococcosis. Let's look. I'm just guessing that might be a good place to look. On your board exam, you can expect a big arrow as well, right? Wouldn't that be nice? Okay.
So copper. Copper pennies.
Yeah, so copper pennies, which go with chromomycosis. And you can see they divide by bilateral fission. There's a little line right across the middle. And so that is copper penny goes with chromomycosis. You can
Crypto.
barely see the organism because the wall is so thin and red, but they are clustered within bigger white spaces, and you're correct that is cryptococcosis. The less capsule there is, the smaller the organism is.
So the big space is stem cell?
No, the big space is the capsule, gelatinous capsule. Here,
Oh, giant cells. It's big.
lots of giant cells, it's big. So that would be and it has in areas neutrophils. So, like medlar, copper penny, but do medlar bodies line up in a row like that?
No, not really.
So they divide not by budding, but by bilateral fission. So if you have things that look like sausage links or circles in a row and they're pigmented,
I mean, could it be Feo?
that's exactly right. It's pheo, not chromo.
And so those are two separate, distinct organisms.
Well,
Or-
it's an overlapping
Okay.
family of black molds.
Okay.
And you're going to treat any of them with itraconazole as first line. So it's if you get it wrong, you're not going to hell. So, that's good.
Proxy.
Yeah, so coccidioidomycosis, and here you can make out the thick, very symmetrical wall, whereas North American blasto would have a very asymmetrical refractile wall. Cocci has a very symmetrical wall, lacy cytoplasm with or without endosporulation. So with or without endosporulation, larger organism, 2 to 4 times the size of blastomycosis, wall very symmetrical, whereas blasto has a distinctly asymmetrical wall. So could be crypto. So you are correct that it's African histoplasmosis. So for crypto, what it's lacking is a capsule, right? And when crypto lacks a capsule, the organism becomes much smaller, right? So this is too big for crypto without a capsule. They're all crammed within giant cells, and it is African histoplasmosis.
So there's acanthosis. Oh,
And
is that rhinoscleroma or rhinosporidium?
no,
No.
it's collection of pus and
Oh.
epithelial cells. But you have pseudoepitheliomatous hyperplasia with pus. So do you want to give me a differential for that, pH with pus?
Yeah, so that's the, here come big green leafy veggies, so halogenoderma, chromoblasto, granuloma inguinale, green leafy leash, veggies, P. vegetans.
Yep, exactly. And so in addition to looking in the tissue, you look in any crust that's there. In this case, that's just kind of goop and hemosiderin. So I'm not finding the organism in this particular example, but you got your differential of pH with pus to follow.
We've got some information.
Yeah, so it's largely neutrophilic. And we don't really see a good palisade around the neutrophilic focus. We search and don't find a fungal organism. So what fungal organisms are most likely when you don't find them in tissue? So sporo and blasto, and this one grew sporo. So you also look then, is it a sporotrichoid distribution? You know, you look at the clinical, which one would make sense?
Lots of newts and horn.
Lots of newts in the horn. How happy is your epidermis?
Really unhappy.
Really unhappy epidermis. And then you look at the adjacent skin. Is the corneum uniform?
It's got the little compact, like tinea look.
So you've got an amphiphilic basket weave sitting on top of compact red. And see that little circle right at the junction between the two? Mm-hmm. You are correct that is tinea. So the layered horn is a big clue to tinea. Basket weave sitting on top of compact red. Should make you think of tinea. Well done.
Vertically oriented.
So are they hollow and clear, or are they amphiphilic and not hollow?
They don't appear to be hollow, so
They
maybe
do not.
erythra.
That's exactly what it is, erythrasma. So vertically oriented hollow is candida. Vertically oriented gray to amphiphilic, not hollow, is erythrasma.
There's a lot of parakeratosis.
Yeah, lots of parakeratosis. What else?
Looks like lots of newts in the horn.
So give me a differential for newts in the horn.
P-tics, psoriasis, tibia, impetigo, candida, subderm syphilis.
And you'd have to walk through all of that because this certainly could be condylomata, it could be any of those things. And apparently they found candida in here. It's not jumping out at me, but it's certainly in the differential. As would psoriasis and other things be.
Focus confirmation. Lots of newts.
So you got lots of newts, palisading, so it could be the kind of thing that could be sporotrichosis if you don't find an organism. And I don't see them jumping out at me right now. I do have another piece of tissue right here. And so, it absolutely is a palisaded granuloma that could be sporo, but apparently it's not sporotrichoid, it's an indolent lesion. Oh, here's a big clue. So what do you see there? What is that structure? See that refractile thing with all the holes in it? That is a splinter, that's a piece of wood, and then what are the little brown circles in the bit of wood? Or chromo.
Chromo.
So splinters go with chromo and phaeohyphomycosis. Black molds are really commonly in splinters. So you see a splinter in the tissue. This is vegetable matter with all those holes in the cell wall. Look for chromo or phaeohyphomycosis within the wall or within the splinter. So, again, we are not in skin. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see the organism jumping out. Let's skip this one just in the interest of time. Yes,
On
ma'am.
the spring. Up there at my bedroom.
Oh, okay, good.
There's some acanthosis, some superficial dermal infiltrate.
Yep.
I think there might be some organisms in the horn.
There are absolutely organisms in the horn, and there's a layered horn. It's not quite basket weave, but it is certainly paler above and redder below.
So
And-
probably tinea.
And that goes, that is a clue to tinea. Very good. Okay, so what kind of pattern do you see here?
pH with pus.
pH with pus. Give me a differential for pH with pus.
Halogenoderma, chromo, blasto, granuloma inguinal, pemphigus vegetans, and leishmaniasis. I
And
left leishmaniasis.
leishmaniasis. Yep. And then,
Chromo.
and there we have copper pennies, although that's actually forming hyphal form, so it's actually pheo, not chromo.
neutrophils.
There are some newts in the horn. Give me a differential for newts in the horn.
Psoriasis, tinea, impetigo, syphilis, seborrheic dermatitis, and
And
C.
Candida was the
Candidiasis.
other. And then tell me about the stratum corneum.
Basket wave, and
Compact below the basket weave, newts in the horn, and then right at the junction of the basket
Tinea.
weave and compact, tinea. Okay. There we go.
Mycetoma.
Mycetoma, and given that it's uniform blue,
Blue.
probably an actino rather than a eumycetoma. This one I'll just walk you through. This is an Alcyon blue stain. You can see the Alcyon blue in the colonic mucosa picking up the goblet cells, so that's your control. And then we're in lung tissue here, so we want to find the area of the granuloma. And you can see your organisms, and then see that shrunken peripheral blue. Blue sitting like a blue rim right on the outside of the organism. With a mucicarmine, it'll be a red rim. With an Alcyon blue, it'll be a blue rim. But it just sits, hugs the outside of the organism because it's all been dehydrated during processing. So that capsular space, you see, it all dehydrates and it just sticks to the outside of the organism. So that's what you'd expect to see.
Stone.
So let's take a look and see if we can find. So we've got a PAS stain. Let's see if we can find our organism here. That is garbage. So we're hunting, which already is a clue, right, to one of the ones that's harder to find. Not finding it pop out, but what if it were a cigar-shaped yeast, elongated cigar-shaped yeast? That goes with sporotrichosis. Correct.
Little box there.
So what do you think?
Is it my turn?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Caitlin.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
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 I was just thinking about the differential in these small organisms.
So are they all uniform or are they pleomorphic?
Pleomorphic.
They're pleomorphic. And are they sitting by themselves or are they within a common capsular space?
It's a cryptid.
So it's Cryptococcus. Pleomorphic within a common capsular space would be crypto. And because it's pleomorphic, you're going to see lots of variation, right, in size and shape, whereas most of the fungal organisms are very uniform. So we have neutrophils surrounded by granuloma, so palisading granuloma with pus in the middle, and commonly hard to find in organisms, so this could be especially if it's nodules streaming up the lymphatics of the arm. Could be very good for sporotrichosis. So usually a palisading granuloma, neutrophils in the center, a sporotrichoid pattern. So what things give you a sporotrichoid pattern other than sporotrichosis?
Nocardia, blast.
So nocardia can do it, blasto occasionally can do it, leishmaniasis can do it, atypical mycobacteria can do it.
Sorry.
It's always your turn. It's always something. Okay, so the stain has faded a little bit. Let's see if we can still make out the organisms. Let's skip and go on to something different.
Lots of death.
So what are these big... These popped out of the tissue like grains of sand.
Oh, so like grains?
These are big grains. And what color are the grains?
Brown.
Yeah, so this is...
Eumycetoma?
It's a eumycetoma with a pigmented organism.
Word?
There's like a pocket of keratin. It looks like there's some hypo, I guess, already.
Yeah.
Maybe pheo.
Exactly, pheo, and this one was also listed as chromo, so that's got to be relabeled.
There's some little organisms.
And are they staining gray on H&E? And tell me about the scale.
Kind of more like perforaceous.
That is a perforaceous scale. You can almost feel it in your throat just looking at it there, the way it falls apart, right? So all scale is parakeratotic except for tinea versicolor scale, which is a perforaceous scale that floats instead of falling to the ground, which is why you inhale it. And so what stains gray is ziti and meatballs in a perforaceous scale.
Tinea versicolor.
Tinea versicolor. And it picks up stain, whereas tinea does not pick up stain. Right? So it stains gray. Tinea does not stain gray.
Yes. So looks like we're up in the horn now. Unless your arrow's pointing to something. Looks like basket weave, and then we have some compact.
So basket weave on top of compact, what could that mean?
Maybe some tinea up there.
Maybe some tinea, and you see the little circles in the compact zone. Right? So it's in the compact zone that you look, and the clue is basket weave on top of compact with tinea.
So very compact horn. Hypergranulosis. Oh yeah, so tinea nigra.
Tinea nigra. PAS stain. And what are we looking at? So, tinea candida or TV? One of the clues are you see the little bits of horn coming off here, and they're short hyphae, and you see some meatballs. So tinea versicolor. Sorry.
So I see a brown inclusion. It looks like they're just binary areas, so maybe chromo.
Yeah. So you got pH with pus, and you got copper pennies, medullary bodies, so chromomycosis. Very good.
Crypto.
Okay, why crypto?
Isn't there like there's like a bunch of little organisms inside like a giant white space?
So the giant white spaces, which are the capsule, and within it, red, thin-walled pleomorphic yeast. So you are correct. So vasculotropic organism, right? So that's going to be fungal sepsis with a vasculotropic organism. And then your first question is, are they hollow and red, like mucor? Are they blue with visible cytoplasm and a thick wall like Feo? Or is all you see the blue cytoplasm? And the wall is so delicate that you really don't see the wall at all. You pretty much just see the blue cytoplasm.
Is it hyalohyphomycosis?
So that would be a form of hyalohyphomycosis, which would be Aspergillus or Fusarium. They are delicate, have a very delicate wall, so you hardly see the wall. You see mainly the blue cytoplasm. And then if you see some swelling, some chlamydospores, it's more likely Fusarium. Aspergillus cannot do the chlamydospores, and Fusarium does form chlamydospores. So that was Fusariosis.
Tinea cat.
Yeah, and you might have thought just Pityrosporum, except that they're blue instead of red, and you can see hyphae. Right, so that's Miyake's granuloma or tinea. And then what's in there? Splinter, what do you expect in a splinter? Yeah, chromo or pheo, and then you also look for it in the wall. You look for either copper pennies or hyphal forms in the wall. But when you see a splinter, you'd expect chromo or pheo. You expect the black mold.
Miyake's.
So Miyake's granuloma, or if this were on the scalp, is this an endothrix or an ectothrix?
Endothrix.
So large spore endothrix is what organisms? So tonsorians and violation. And small spore ectothrix is cats and dogs fight outside, right? So Canis, Odwini, Ferruginium distortum, and the large spore ecto, varicosum cattle farmers, usually beard area. So this is a large spore endo. It's tonsorians. Tonsorians came from Africa in the 50s, which is why in people of European descent it tends to be highly inflammatory, and people of African descent it looks almost sebderm-like often, because they are better adapted to tolerate the organism. So African organism, therefore people of African descent tolerate it better with less inflammatory commonly. So you expect carrion rippering in someone of European descent, and more sebderm-like, almost like petaloid sebderm with hair loss in someone of African descent. So coccidioidomycosis, absolutely correct. So you have large spore, very symmetrical wall, lacy interior. So, cocci.
Kind of a compact horn.
Kind of a compact horn, so you want to look in your horn.
See, they almost look like little yeast. Or tinea.
Yeah, exactly. Question is are they just being cut obliquely? Some of them are longer. And it's horizontally oriented, so probably tinea. Vertically oriented, more likely candida.
We've got some perforaceous scale.
Perforaceous scale, and the organism stains distinctly gray on H&E.
So tinea versicolor.
Tinea versicolor. Let's just pull out the one thing we haven't seen, I think, is mucor, right?
And histo and
Yeah, that's right.
Rhinoscleria.
Now you have those in your unknowns, so you want to make sure you go through and review those. Let's see if we can find them here. There's one we can look at. There's one we're going to look at. Let's see if you can find a histo in there. Let's do that. And every time you reach for it, I grab it. Okay. See if you can find histo while we look at
Okay.
these. Okay. So first off, let's look at this. Okay. Thank you. So what do you think about this one? Whose turn are we?
So
Do you see a wall or do you see blue cytoplasm?
I say blue cytoplasm.
So you see blue cytoplasm with no real wall, and then does it form chlamydospores?
Yes.
So what is almost invisible wall, blue cytoplasm, chlamydospores present?
Fusarium.
Fusarium, you just saved the patient. Very good. So one of the clues is it looks almost like pancreatic fat necrosis.
Probably mucor.
So probably mucor, because that's characteristic of mucor to look like pancreatic fat necrosis. And then the mucor hides in there because it's red and hollow. Right, so red, irregular, lumpy, bumpy, and hollow. And the right angle versus 45-degree angle thing is a total crock. So. But red, irregular, almost everything we've seen has a blue wall. Crypto and mucor have distinctly red wall, and mucor is hollow and lumpy, bumpy, irregular. Okay, what's that?
Well, I was thinking histo because it's tiny, but more gelatinous condos, I think.
Yeah, more gelatinous condos, red,
So
thin-walled,
crypto.
pleomorphic,
Crypto.
crypto. Okay. That is a PAS stain. Within the histiocytes and giant cells, you have those little round organisms.
Histo.
Yeah, and that's about the size of histo.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what's this one?
This is coxy.
That's coxy. Big, large spore, very symmetrical wall, lacy gray interior. Let's try to find it. Don't see it so much down in the tissue. It's on the surface. And it's really kind of staining unusually blue in this example. One of the clues is that they look hollow by and large.
Fusarium again.
Well, I'd actually wonder, because I see some thicker wall, I'd wonder if this is a synergistic infection with black mold and something else. The fact that many of them are hollow, you'd wonder about mucor for that. And apparently it did grow mucor. Probably not the fairest slide to test because mucor should be red 99% of the time. Okay, with that we are going to sign off here.